and welcome to the Switchrpg podcast. I am one of your hosts, Gio, and I'm joined by
Just Johnny.
Just Johnny. How are you doing today?
Doing good, man.
You're doing good. We had spooky time, and it's all over.
Halloween.
Halloween is done. We are moving on from that.
We are weaning out.
We are weaning out. That's right. It's starting to get cold. I love this time of year. If this is your first time listening to this show from SwitchRPG.com, we are where we bring we bring you the latest about Switch RPGs. This week we have quite a bit of stuff here. We got Pokemon coming out soon. We'll be doing a little bit of that. We're not talking about Fallout 76 today.
Yeah, we
we?
probably shouldn't.
All right, we just mentioned
Out of protest.
Out of protest. All right, cool.
Let's
Works
call
for
it
me.
like that.
But first, what are you playing?
I've been playing Icewind Dale. I've been playing Planescape Torment.
And you have some opinions about those that you'll be writing down at some point?
Eventually, I will write down. I've written down like very little tiny bullet points.
Oh boy.
Something this, something this, something that, and other stuff. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, look out on Switch RPG for that upcoming. Anything else? Has it just been the Switch?
Well, it hasn't just been the Switch. So for Halloween, I decided to play and beat, just finishing up on Resident Evil 2. So I beat that.
Oh yeah.
And I started up immediately after that. I started up Resident Evil 7.
Oh okay.
So, and this is Resident Evil 2 remake.
Okay,
so
right.
Remake from earlier this year,
Yeah.
7 from like 2 years ago.
They did a really good job with the remake.
They did.
I watched my brother-in-law play it, and it just looks incredible.
Yeah, it might be one of the best Resident Evils. It's really, really good.
Okay.
If I didn't already play and beat Resident Evil 2 from the PlayStation, I would have really loved it. Might have placed it above Resident Evil 4.
Wow.
But it is such a well done game. I think it perfectly matches or sort of sits in between the older Resident Evil 0, 1, and 2, and the 3s, but I never played the 3s.
Right.
In between that and Resident Evil 4, sort of finds the best perfect balance between those and just continues forward with it. So it's really, really good. I was really impressed by it. It's nice and short too.
Right.
It took only 10 hours to beat it with Leon.
Okay.
I'll be starting up with
Claire.
Claire.
Is it Claire?
Yeah, Claire Redfield. Yep.
Yeah.
At some point, probably after Resident Evil.
Maybe next
7.
Halloween.
Yeah. Well, I'm going through Resident Evil 7, and hopefully that one's also short. And Resident Evil 7, it's weird because it doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game.
Is that the Biohazard one, or is that something different? I'm
it's
getting
the
my
first person one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's completely in first person. It's kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre influenced Resident Evil take on that, and you're going through a very large house, almost like a mansion. It's a big giant house. There's you're going through old video footages, but as you continue to play that game, it doesn't feel like Resident Evil at the start. Mm-hmm. But as you continue to play through it, and you're sort of slowly getting new. It feels at first very linear, and then as you progress through it, it starts to feel more and more Resident Evil-like. And and at the point that I'm at right now, I don't know how far along I am, but it very much is now okay, I got the herbs, I got this little chemical thing, I can sort of craft and combine the two to create some heals, and I'm getting the ammos, there's the item boxes, I have to save my file on a tape recorder,
that is the last Resident Evil I played, and I agree with you. Resident Evil 4 is probably for me, in my opinion, that's probably the best one. This Resident Evil 7, I think Biohazard, was probably legitimately the most scariest one I played. The first part of the game, it genuinely creeped me out. It had that You had that Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel, and then once those black blobs started getting into, I forget what they're called.
Annoying. That's what they're called.
Oh, that's what
they're called. Annoying.
But
until you get the shotgun, then they're no problem.
Right, but I mean the initial part with that dude, that old guy, is just chasing you around. I'm done. I couldn't do it.
So because I beat Resident Evil 2 first, that wasn't really much of a problem, scare wise.
Okay.
Sure, there was like a little bit of jump scariness.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. Yeah,
but coming from Resident Evil 2 definitely, the remake, raised the bar. And then now, going through Resident Evil 7, I could have seen it being much scarier than what it currently is. It feels less, it feels more claustrophobic and less freeing of the character, because you don't, even though it's in first person, you still don't feel as fully in control. The environment feels more constricted than Resident Evil 2 remake. So, but going through it, enjoying it nonetheless, especially as things slowly ramp up and feel more like a Resident Evil game, where you're getting the little coins. And I just got
the typewriter room was like the music just was so comfy, cozy, and I didn't want to leave.
and they have the bird cages, so you can kind of get that mini level up your character type of element thing. So it's feeling very much like a Resident Evil game. So I'm enjoying it. Not as good as 2, not as good as 4,
but it is good.
It is real good, though.
Yeah, I mean, those other 2 games you just mentioned are really up there. So
and Resident Evil, don't get me wrong, Resident Evil 1 remake on GameCube is probably my second favorite Resident Evil game. 2 is probably now gonna best that, but Resident Evil 1 remake on GameCube, oh man, that is so good, so good. That's probably the scariest one.
Yeah, I'm still our Resident Evil 4.
Oh, Resident Evil 4 is definitely the best one.
What else you playing? Anything else? That's quite a bit.
That's pretty much it. What about and just earlier today playing Terry Bogard from Smash.
Oh, you have the fighter pass?
I have the fighter. Of course I have the fighter pass.
Wow, you like a legit pro then?
No, I am bad. I used to be way better at Smash, and it's like one of those skills they have to keep at it. Fine tune, keep playing. Otherwise, you're going to get rusty and get beat. I've gone to tournaments and I've gotten beat. I think my Smash career ended way back on the GameCube days.
Oh wow, that's like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, I went to a tournament and they royally stomped me. I brought my Yoshi. This is before people realized that Yoshi was good. But I thought Yoshi was good. And I brought Yoshi, and I got stomped hard because Yoshi was not good, or at least I was not good with Yoshi. And I was definitely not at the level of these other people. They were insane.
Oh, man. So. Yeah, I have the game. I'm terrible at the game. I just have fun with it.
Yeah.
I'm just no good.
I enjoy the museum-like historical sort of part of it a lot, and I do enjoy playing around with new characters, and sometimes I find a new character that I really stick to, like Piranha Plant for whatever reason. I don't know why I like Piranha Plant, but I like Piranha Plant.
they're just that roster is just so massive. It's unbelievable how you can fit that many characters into this game. It's crazy.
I think they're over 80 now, or almost close to 80.
That's, in a sense, I mean, I think it's unnecessary. It's just too much.
It's the ultimate. It's the ultimate one. Just keep adding, make it the biggest one possible. It just hit a record.
It is the biggest one possible.
It's the best-selling fighting game of all time, officially.
Now, we're not going to go into the rabbit hole. Is it a fighting game or not?
Well, it was. Other people have already donned it the best-selling fighting game of all time. So, yeah.
Okay, well, all right. That's
it's definitely a fighting game. Okay. When you have Ryu and Ken and now Terry Bogard,
it's a fighting game.
It's a fighting game.
Okay.
No questions asked.
All right, fine. Like I said, we're not going to go there. I just wanted to bring it out there.
What have you been playing?
The Outer Worlds, man. The Outer Worlds is awesome. I absolutely love it. It hits that Fallout New Vegas, like the gap that I needed. It's right there. I love the writing in it. It's funny. It's good. It's not open world like Fallout New Vegas, but I don't need that. I don't need the open world. It's kind of got different planets to explore, so it doesn't feel small at all. But yeah, the weapons are fantastic, very creative. It's really, really good. I love it. Yeah. I absolutely love it. Also been playing. I'm still playing Divinity Original Sin 2. Probably.
Yeah, that's like 100-hour.
Well, this is my like third through.
Oh, wow.
I have done so many different play styles, so I'm just kind of doing a lot of experimentation. So and I'm doing it for YouTube, so it's kind of fun doing that.
Have you played the game with other people?
I played with my brother-in-law. I found that it slowed the campaign, or our story progress really down, because I could only play, because it was on his account, so I could only play that storyline when he was available to play it. I couldn't carry the story through unless he was on. So it was kind of like I said, it really slowed things.
Was that
down.
Locally, or could you do it online?
No, you could do it locally. We did have a few play sessions where we did it locally, but it was all online.
It was all online. Okay.
Yeah, that was through Xbox where I did that. So he would play at his house, I would play on mine, and we could only play that specific campaign when he was playing.
Yeah, that definitely slows it down.
Yeah, so it slowed it down tremendously. But yeah, I did play it co-op, and the way they don't have it for the Switch, but if you play local online co-op on any other version except for maybe Steam,
I thought the Switch version did have local.
I don't think it does have local.
I am probably wrong on that. I could look it up. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, either way, the way they integrate it is really cool, because your characters, you can have the split screen. And each character can go different ways, and then when they get in the same area, it blends together. And the way they do it on the Xbox version is really, really cool. I wish they actually did have it there. They don't have local co-op; they have local play. Is what the Switch has.
What is local play?
Local play. So we each have our own individual Switches, and then we can play that way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but it's not co-op in terms of we're using and sharing the same Switch.
I actually like that local play better than online. That reminds me of like the Monster Hunter days where my friends and I would all get our Wii U's together in the same room.
That's a lot of equipment.
And, well, you didn't really need TVs, right?
No, depends on the game, though.
Well, this was for Monster Hunter.
Okay, so
it was just the console and the gamepad, and we would all play Monster Hunter together. Some people would connect to a TV, but some people would just be perfectly fine on their.
It just depends on the game, because other games just utilize that gamepad differently. I know, for example, with Xenoblade Chronicles X, that was your map and kind of inventory management type of setup.
That was not a good game to play on the gamepad, but the gamepad functionality was good.
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Outer Worlds, Divinity, and I've been doing a bunch of stuff for YouTube. I just recently picked up Cat Quest 2, kind of a really simple, kind of casual RPG.
Yeah, the art direction and the art style in that game, it looks really
I love it because, the overworld, I guess you can call it, is basically a map, but you're actually fighting, enemies on the map, and then you can go into dungeons. So it's really kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like an action-y, isometric... RPG, but are the dungeons, when you go into a dungeon, are they procedurally generated, or?
I'm not entirely sure. Once you're done with a dungeon, I haven't really felt the need to go back into a dungeon, so I'm not entirely sure if they're procedurally generated.
The only thing with that game is that it looks really well polished, really well done, but it also looks a little shallow regarding depth. Like, it's really just go around the world, attack stuff, and dodge the attacks.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's a casual RPG.
Yeah,
it's more for your casual fans to kind of get into, kind of shoehorn them into RPGs in general. So
like a Diablo Light, without the loot drop grind.
It's
super
light. Oh yeah, we'll say super light, but it's a fun game. It is really fun.
Light and cuddly.
Very cuddly. So that's kind of what I've been playing. So let's move on to the news. We had BlizzCon. Oh man! And
really
excited for Diablo 4, which there was no information on that regarding the Switch version,
or any. They did mention. Did they? I think they mentioned the consoles, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't say. Did they say actual PS4?
They might have said,
because that must have been a flub, because there's no way Diablo 4 is coming out on PS4 and Xbox One, because just Blizzard time does not align that. Why would they release a game like that? If it at its earliest, it's going to be a 2021 game, which means it's going to be a game that releases a year into the next gen consoles.
Right, but I mean, at this point, I don't think they're going to go ahead and say PlayStation 5 or Xbox Scarlet or whatever it's called. They're not going to go ahead and ruin other people's plans. Right, do you know what I mean?
But I mean, the cat's out of the bag.
With PlayStation, yes.
Well, even Xbox has been talking about the next gen console, Scarlet, Project Scarlet, whatever they're calling it.
So I mean, what's to say that this one wouldn't be, I guess, backwards compatible, or I mean, I think we're right on that border where
they're definitely
that generational border.
They're definitely the games that you're gonna see come out in 2020 are definitely going to release twice. They're going to release whether if they're earlier in the year, they're going to release, and then they're going to release again for the next gen consoles. That's definitely happening, no question about that.
I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't do that, because not everyone's going to jump on that next gen train right away.
And the fact that what was it, Sony, the PS5 is going to be backwards compatible. So if you can buy,
is that set in stone? I thought that was a rumor where it was going to go backwards compatible all the way to the PlayStation.
Well, I don't know how far back they're going to go, but
they going PS4?
They did say PS4 backwards compatibility. Once again, I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket because Sony has been doing weird stuff and announcing weird stuff. But I believe it was Mark Cerny specifically that said that there would be backwards compatibility.
Just wait and see. You know, you're right. You don't want to put all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, you're probably wrong.
Yeah.
So there was really nothing, Switch related. I don't see why, Warcraft 3, was it Reforged?
Yeah.
Reforged. Why can't the Switch get that?
It can, but this is Blizzard, and they don't think that RTSs. They tried RTSs back on the N64 with StarCraft, StarCraft 64, and the sales weren't good in that game, obviously.
Yeah,
and they don't. And no one has.
But times are different now, obviously.
They've tried, like multiple companies have tried to bring RTSs to console, and only the very few that are able to do it the console way, instead of trying to take like a PC RTS and make a PC RTS work on console. If you just make a console RTS, it will work.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem. We were actually talking about this behind the scenes, where RTSs are just difficult to play on. I was saying that they're difficult to play on a controller.
PC RTSs. So let's get this correct. Like PC RTS, like because
I mean, I haven't played any other RTSs.
Well, Pikmin. Have you played Pikmin?
I have played Pikmin. Yeah.
Pikmin is an RTS.
I guess you could say that. Yeah. Where's Pikmin 4?
Where is Pikmin 4 indeed? That game has been done, and Miyamoto is just like holding on to it.
I don't mean to derail the train, but yeah, I mean, what other RTSs are there that I can play on a console that's made for a console?
Tooth and Tail.
Tooth and Tail.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned this Tooth and Tail thing. It's really the character design that you're kind of explaining are really, really interesting.
It came out. I think it came out the year that Breath of the Wild came out. So 2017. I think the game came out then. And it was in my top 5 games of that year.
Wow.
Or almost made my top 5 games that year, because Xenoblade also came out that year. And Mario Odyssey also came out that year. That was an incredible year.
That's quite a cast there, yeah.
But yeah, Tooth and Tail is phenomenal. And they did RTS controls. They made an RTS work on console because they changed the system, right? It's not point and click and sort of micromanage your units. They remove the element of having to micro your units, and that's the part that doesn't work well on consoles. And they realize that, and the game actually plays better when you're playing it on a controller, because when you play it with keyboard and mouse, it works the same way as it does on controller. So they designed it controller first instead of keyboard, point and click, micro first. So it's like, I think even the developers had a phrase, they called it like popcorn RTS.
Popcorn RTS.
Yeah, meaning it's like something that everyone can enjoy.
Okay.
You don't there's no entry barrier to entry.
Okay.
You can get up, pick up the controller and start enjoying how to play this RTS. May not be very good, but you'll get good, and being able to micro won't get in your way.
Yeah, it won't be clunky, it won't be cumbersome. That's my biggest problem with RTSs on a console.
And that game, the developers have said way back, maybe about a year ago, that they are bringing that game to the Switch.
All right.
So I would say it's not on the Switch yet. If it was, I would have gotten it. So keep a lookout on that game because the storyline is also bonkers and it has to do with just animals killing each other. And there's like multiple factions. One of them is like a communism faction. Another one is the KGB faction.
Wow. Okay.
It's just weird. It's
all right.
really cool too.
So it was Tooth and Tail.
Tooth and Tail.
All right, cool. What else did Blizzard have to say? They mentioned Diablo Immortal.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. All right,
that was surprising.
That's good though.
They might have mentioned it in the panels, but I didn't see the panels.
It was. I saw their
main announcement.
Yeah, that's basically what I watched too. And as far as anything else was concerned, there really wasn't.
Yeah. And I bet if they did talk about Diablo Immortal, they probably because I could see in the future that Diablo Immortal makes its way over to Switch.
Sure. It's a mobile at heart game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see that easily coming over as well. They mentioned Overwatch, but we're not going to go into
Overwatch 2 and the next expansion of World of Warcraft. But yeah, Warcraft 3. I don't know. Blizzard's kind of out of the RTS sort of game as is.
Yeah, they're MMOs right now. Diablo is their thing. Overwatch is their thing.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't like RTSs anymore.
Blizzard, they just want the dollars now.
That's it. So. And then they're into their whole Battle.net client. All right. So, yeah, moving on. Dragon Age. I haven't heard that in a long time. It's still a ways off. EA has finally told us during their recent earnings Q&A, the topic of Dragon Age came up. EA's CFO Blake Jorgensen stated that the project probably comes after fiscal year 2022, meaning sometime after April 2022. He didn't extrapolate too much further than that, claiming that EA doesn't typically give multi-year guidance, but finished by stating plans are underway. So there is something coming, and I think we did have a couple of snapshots or images about they were kind of in very early development for that. Yeah. But yeah, they're kind of a ways off for that.
They were in development with that many years ago. I think I remember when EA did the press conference where they showed like headshots of like different developers. They mentioned Dragon Age while also mentioning like Mass Effect Andromeda before Andromeda released. Wow. So, I mean, this game has been in development for at least 5 years, probably longer.
Unless there were issues where they just stopped development, stopped total production, and then kind of just kept it on the back burner for a little bit, and then kind of just now they're starting back up again. Who knows?
Certainly, like a small team to experiment what's going to be the new thing. How do they sort of take the game and move it forward? Because there were a lot of things in Inquisition that just was not good.
I mean, it looked visually. I thought Inquisition looked really good.
It did look good.
I thought the animations with the magic. I thought the attacks were kind of floaty, almost Fallout-esque style, where it didn't really feel like I was hitting anything.
Yeah, nothing was connecting.
But I mean, like I said, it looked beautiful, except for the times where I'm traveling from one point to another where there was absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it was pretty barren, and the just garbage quests that they sprinkled along the way was just completely mundane. And please don't do that again. Do not make your RPGs into a meaningless grind fest.
Yeah, well, I hope they have the right people in there. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I have no clue why that game won so many Game of the Year awards.
Inquisition did?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look back and see.
It won. I know it won IGN's, and it won a bunch of others.
Wow. Okay.
And it shouldn't have.
No.
At all.
No. You're right. There's
way better games that came out.
Oh, geez. So, yeah, moving on here, we got 3DS games come to the Switch.
Oh, yes.
And they may be games that were originally canceled, but don't get your hopes up on some Metroid games. So, last week, Nintendo's president suggested that the company was interested in bringing more 3DS franchises to the Switch, given how well Luigi's Mansion 3 did. And the upcoming Sword and Shield turned out, but I don't know how that relates to 3DS. Maybe because Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon did well, and Pokemon generally is a 3DS or a handheld title.
And Luigi's Mansion 3 is doing really good, so they might bring back the older games. I mean, the 3DS didn't sell DS numbers, right? I think it's at somewhere right around like 60 million.
I would actually say that people probably were still playing their DSs. Maybe that's why, because I mean there was really no need to unless you really, really like that 3DS.
There was just less great games on the 3DS.
Yeah.
And I partly blame Konami for this. Konami, your fault.
Why is it?
Because on the DS, there's not 1, not 2, but 3 fantastic Castlevania RPGs. And on the 3DS, there is goose egg.
None.
There are Castlevania games on the 3DS.
But just not
They're not RPGs, and they're garbage. They are made by developers that ruined the Castlevania franchise, but they did redeem themselves when they did the Return of Samus.
Okay, yeah, which was...
or Samus Returns.
I
forgot what it's called. They flipped
Metroid
the names. 2. The Metroid 2 remake, not the fan one, the legit one.
The legit
Nintendo
one, yeah. Can we even talk about the fan made one?
I love the fan one. Fan one is so fantastic.
I don't know if we can even mention that. We'll get struck down.
But the official Nintendo one's also really good.
No, it is good.
It is awesome.
It is good. I still prefer the Metroid 2. I think it's Return of Samus, which was...
Or Samus Returns. I think it's Samus Returns.
The Game Boy one.
You prefer the Game Boy one?
Game Boy, yes.
Are you insane?
I am not insane. Well, I have been called worse, but yeah.
You are insane.
Okay, well, thank you.
That is a terrible game.
No.
It's not bad. It's great for like a Game Boy game, but man, it's just it's too claustrophobic. There's no map.
It's a Game Boy game.
Yeah. So
I believe there was a map.
There is no map.
I will show you.
Show me the map.
I'm not going to show you right now. Remind me. I will show you the map.
All
right. So yes, the suggestion is that recent remasters like Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story
bring it
underperformed because of bankruptcy of the developers Alpha Dream. Well, yes, it's true, and I think if that was either remastered or just ported over, that would be fantastic. But there are many other games. I believe there were some Fire Emblem games that were canceled. That could potentially make it over. So
there's a good amount of 3DS games that could get the graphical improvements, bells and whistles. For example, the Pikmin game, the alleged Pikmin 4, which was not a Pikmin 4. Maybe it was, but it was a 2D side scroller, which is weird for a Pikmin game.
Right, it is.
But that could be brought over to the Switch. I mean, I won't mind. At this point, getting ports of 3DS games, even if they did nothing but port the game and increase the resolution,
I would accept that.
And it would be way better than the avalanche of garbage bin titles that are on the eShop every single week.
Oh, there are a lot of bad ones.
There are a lot of bad ones.
They just over discount themselves to the point where they're trying to shoot up the rankings.
Yeah, I've seen some that were like 3 cents or something like that.
I bought one for 2 cents.
Why would you do that?
It ended up being free. It looked like a cool game. It was like a bullet hell shooter. It ended up being free because I just used 2 gold coins and I was like, "Oh, free game."
You're part of the problem.
I am a problem, and I'm also part of the problem. But I wouldn't mind like something like Bravely Default. Bravely Second is okay, but Bravely Default was fun. There were there's a lot of Fire Emblem games on there, but.
A lot of Fire Emblems, the Bravely Defaults. There's Etrian Odyssey.
Yep. I think that one's actually coming. Etrian Odyssey, because Alliance Alive just came over, and I think I saw something about that.
There was also Dragon Quest 9, right? Mm-hmm. That's a 3DS game.
Is that the MM? That's not the MMO.
MMO is
7,
10,
11, 12. I don't know.
It's X.
I am
10.
losing track of these. Things. It's unbelievable. So yeah, there are plenty of 3DS games that can come on over.
Yeah, and DS. I mean, if they open up that little Pandora's box, because the 3DS could run DS games.
Yeah.
So if you could just tap into that market, oh man.
I don't know that they'll ever do that though.
There's many more better overall games on the DS.
That would be on the publishers. Say for example with Square Enix, if they wanted to bring back some of the I think they did Bravely Default. Well, I mean they could easily bring that over and port it over like they've done with a lot of other games. So I mean, that would probably be on them. But if we're looking at just Nintendo, Fire Emblem is a second party, I guess you could call it. But Fire Emblem games.
Oh, Fire Emblem is Nintendo owned.
Okay, but
it's definitely a Nintendo product, but the developers is what.
It's not Nintendo.
It's not Nintendo.
I can't think of.
But they are a second-party developer. Mm-hmm. But that's also the same relationship between Rare and Nintendo back in the day.
Right.
Or Retro right now is
Retro right now. You got Monolith Studios.
Monolith. Yeah. So these are now officially Nintendo-owned franchises. Mm-hmm. So and Fire Emblem. I mean, that's old.
They grew up with Nintendo. And then what do we have here? You wanted to quickly mention something here. We had this for last week. I don't know if you wanted to mention this again. Something regarding the creator of Earthbound.
Yeah, he just made some interesting comments relating to Earthbound, and not necessarily about a potential Mother 3, but more so about how the game even came to be. And there's an article on it. The article is on, where is it at?
It's on 1101.com.
Yeah, 1101.com. Just go there, read the article, or you can even find that article. It's kind of buried a little bit now on My Nintendo News. Go to either of those places. It was just, there were some interesting interview sort of enlightening things to learn about how that person in particular, his first game he ever developed was Earthbound, or not developed but directed, oversaw was Earthbound. And he went to Miyamoto, and Miyamoto was the one who kind of made that happen by he had a chat with this person for a different reason altogether. and it was, if you read the article, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it was just fascinating that Miyamoto believed so much in this person who was not in the industry as a game developer, and decided to listen to them. And I guess this pitch must have been one hell of a pitch, because Miyamoto put together a team, called this guy up like, I don't know, days, weeks, or a month later, and said, all right, I got the team, come on in and make the game of your dreams.
That's awesome. The now Earthbound has kind of taken on a culture of its own at this point, but that game, I remember when that game came out for the Super Nintendo, in the Western release, that game was it came out really late in the Super Nintendo life cycle. So I don't know that it got a lot of the accolades that it should have gotten, honestly. But like I said, it's now taken on this.
Yeah, and it's a rare car, and it did come out in the States, and it's you can. I actually have the card. It's not mine; it's my friend's. He just never took it back.
Don't tell him.
It's his, and he can grab it whenever he wants. But yeah, it is a really good RPG. But it's a really good, not because of the mechanics. It's really good because it was different in the world that it took place. It took place in modern day.
Yeah, where most of the RPGs were high fantasy.
Yeah,
typically
this is very low fantasy. There was definitely fantasy elements in there. Right? It was there was like aliens, and weird tripped out hippies and stuff like that. But it was it took place in a realistic world that we know today, without cell phones.
I don't remember that. So long ago.
No cell phones.
No cell phones. The Smash Direct happens. We'll briefly mention this here. Terry Bogard and all that stuff.
Yeah, Terry's hard to use. He's a very complicated character. He plays more like Ken and Ryu, but even more complicated than those two characters. So
you got a lot to learn.
You have a lot to learn, and he might be. He definitely looks like he could be better than those two characters. So you might, and those two characters maybe will be in tournaments here and there, but Terry Bogard being potentially better than those characters, you'll probably see Terry somewhere in the tournaments. But more importantly, just before that happened, I think this happened like a day ago or 2 days ago, there was this interesting rumor posted by a person, a rumor spreader person, who has been proven right.
A leaker? Can we call him a leaker?
A leaker. Right. Yep.
Sounds
That's
weird.
A better word.
Yeah, it just sounds gross, but
sounds grosser, but better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this leaker has been right before in the past, and this leaker said that there was going to be and showed off. Not only did they show off images, which could be doctored, also showed off video.
Huh.
And they claimed that it was video from a debug build of Smash, which is definitely a thing. And once again, there is a place that you can sort of see this stuff. It's on Dexerado.com. You can go there and search for if you just do a Google search for Geno Doom Guy Ultimate Leak, and I already just said what it is. In that video, you see the two Mii characters. One of them has on, what was the cloud person in Super Mario RPG?
The cloud person in Mario RPG.
I can't believe it.
That was. I don't remember.
He's like a cloud.
I know.
He could punch.
He was a what?
He was a spell cast.
What was he?
He was kind of a cloud person.
Cloud? Can you do that again?
Cloud.
Okay.
And the other Mii fighter or Mii character had on a helmet of the. Oh, I forgot. It's like the big fat floating head with a big giant mouth, gaping mouth, and multiple eyes, or maybe one big eye. I forgot. But it's clearly a character from Doom.
All right.
And they were worn as helmets on the Miis. And then playing in that was Terry Bogard.
Okay.
Or no, Ken. And I think it was Ken specifically because the leaker goes by the alias of Ken Smash or something like that.
Oh boy.
And there's speculation that Geno might be the last, or potentially one of
the fifth fighter,
one of the unannounced fighters. Might be, okay. Or Doom Guy.
Doom Guy.
Yeah.
I have no allegiance to any characters. I barely play the game myself. But I just love the passion that a lot of these people have with Smash. It's just it's so cool to see.
It is officially the biggest fighting game of all time.
All right.
And the franchise overall. So the franchise overall has they did the numbers. It was like 52 or 53 million versus the next highest up, which was in the 40s.
That's crazy.
So it's officially like by far the best-selling fighting game franchise of all time.
Mm-hmm. And it's competitive, which is awesome.
And crazily competitive, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. What do we got here? Pokemon. Are we going to Pokemon?
There's some sales stuff that I thought I don't want to dive deep into the sales other than making a few mentionings.
Mention quickly about some sales.
In Japan, the Switch Lite actually sold more than the Switch itself.
Already?
Well, not more in total. I'm talking for the weekly.
The week, okay.
It has surpassed it, and I can definitely see that being a long-term trend where the Switch Lite is going to be the dominant one. Now, in the States, different story. Mm-hmm. Interesting is that both Persona 5 Royale and Luigi's Mansion 3 released roughly around the same time, and Persona beat Luigi. So
that's sad.
And this is Persona 5 Royale. It's the same game, but with extra stuff.
Right. So people are rebuying this game?
They're rebuying it.
Why can't
It's on the same console, too. It's not like it's on a new console.
Why can't we have that game? I want that. I don't want this scramble baloney that we're getting.
Hey, you remember that question that we got about what games are overrated?
Oh, you're not saying...
We did on the first show.
Yeah? Uh-huh. Yeah. So P5 is on there? Persona 5 is on that overrated list.
P5 was actually the one I wanted to mention.
But you didn't mention it.
But I didn't mention it. I actually have Persona 5. It is not a fantastic RPG. It's all right, but it is not fantastic. I was expecting too much.
Maybe that's your issue. Like, people overhyped it for you.
But it's up my alley. I'm totally down with JRPGs. And it just let me down so hard in that the combat was so trivial. The dungeon crawling was meaningless. Like, we've done these types of manage your resources. When you run out of resources, you can no longer progress through the dungeon. We've done those games back in like the 80s.
That's
and
not
90s. Fun. It's not fun at all. Exploring the dungeon is not really that interesting. And the story, exploring the personas, metaphorically interesting, but like in practice, it was still juvenile, and I don't know why people are praising the story for being like...
Well, they're high school kids.
Edgy and... Yeah.
Well, okay, so how about we got Shin Megami Tensei coming up soon.
I'm looking forward to that.
All right, maybe that'll be up your alley instead.
And I will always check out the next Persona game. I still have Persona 3 that I have yet to start up, but
okay. I can't. Wow.
I'm not out on the Persona franchise.
All right. So it totally killed the passion there.
I put in over 10 hours. I beat the first thing, and these are not.
Isn't that like 100+ hour game?
It's like a 100-hour game, yeah.
And you only put 10 hours, and you fully judged it.
I'm sorry, I beat Resident Evil 2 in 10 hours, so I think 10 hours is more than enough time to judge a game.
But you should know better. With a JRPG, 10 hours can barely scratch the surface sometimes.
It could, but it shouldn't be taking this long to be interesting and fun. At all. Xenoblade
I was just going to mention
continued to unlock stuff, but I was having fun.
That
hour
entire
one,
time.
I was having fun.
Okay.
That was a fantastic opener, right? They slowly unlock stuff as you progress along, but things were awesome right from the start.
Right.
So there's ways to do it way better than Persona 5.
Oh man, we might get some.
And look, Fire Emblem. 3 Houses does have a pretty slow opening, and that one also opens up things nice and slow too.
Right.
And that's also in like a school-like setting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's definitely it is a school.
Right. Yeah. So,
except you go out and
Fire Emblem
kill people.
Is by far the better RPG to Persona 5, like by a landslide.
But people,
not even close.
The peoples, they want it.
Sure.
Let them have it.
Persona 5 came out on Switch, which it should have. That would be fantastic. Instead, we're getting a Misu.
Misu game. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Some new gameplay details on Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is coming out really soon. Why don't you go over some of this?
All right, there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's an article on My Nintendo News which sums up a lot of stuff so you can kind of read most of it on there. But the gist of it is that they're doing some interesting things. One thing in particular I thought that was interesting is that this is also like a slippery slope. So watch yourselves, Pokemon Company. They are allowing players to encounter certain rare forms of Pokemon within a window of time. So
like real world time.
Like from the release November until sometime in January, you'll have a higher chance of encountering rare Gigantamax Pokemon. And they mentioned one in particular, and there's probably going to be others, and this will probably be a repeating event thing. Mm-hmm. And I can imagine that they're announcing this for this time frame to get those early game sales boosted as much as possible, and then they'll probably periodically throughout the remainder of 2020 have these types of events where certain rare Gigantamax Pokemon will appear throughout the game. They're also doing like these really cool quality of life things. Now, other Pokemon players, that you want to sort of get Pokemon, and you have to get the right Pokemon and make sure that their base stats and their growth potential. You want to make sure that you're nurturing and breeding. This mainly ties into Pokemon breeding, so that you're getting the best. And this is really for the players that
the min-maxers there.
The min-maxers, the ones that are playing to compete and all that. So this is really for them, but they made that process easier. They're inserting new items and new methods to sort of enhance either the stat growth potential or to enhance the base stats of potentially bad Pokemon. You can sort of bring their base stats up to the best possible version of that same Pokemon. Mm-hmm. So I think that's great quality of life stuff. That
sure, because that would have saved me potentially hundreds of hours. Because in X and Y, when I was breeding Pokemon, this sounds really weird. But when I was, because you send your Pokemon to a daycare. And all of a sudden they're having eggs and stuff. But anyway, I spent a lot of time breeding Pokemon, looking for the perfect IVs. I was not a competitor at all. I just wanted the best freaking Pokemon of whatever one. I was also breeding for shinies and things like that. So I put in easily 100+ hours just in breeding.
Yeah, and these things, when you're putting in that much time, it is not fun. But you're doing it because you there's a better version.
Right.
And the game itself, the base game, is awesome. It's fantastic. But put these little quality of life things in there so that way we have another way to sort of min-max without having to go the grindy way of min-maxing and having RNG work against our favor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're also funny you mentioned the breeding stuff. So if you take eggs and put them next to each other, and if they meet certain conditions, you can sort of depend on the eggs learning certain egg moves. You Pokemon players know what this is about. So you can that's more reliable as to what type of moves you can sort of give a new Pokemon that's about to hatch from the egg.
So you have in the overall creation of a Pokemon, you have a lot more reliability in that, which is yes, like you said, that quality of life improvement. Yep. That would have saved me hundreds of hours.
Yeah, and it's the egg thing was like a way to kind of cheat the move set that a Pokemon of a certain type could get by being able to learn a move that's not normal for their type. That's how the egg system comes to play, and now you can it's easier to figure out how to tweak that.
Wow, like mad scientists.
They're also adding, I don't know if they've had this in prior Pokemon games, but I'm guessing probably not, but I could be very wrong on that. But right off rip, they're going to have a competition for online Pokemon battles. It's going to be an official competition. I don't know what's happening with the winner, but you can look up the article, and there's a bunch of other stuff listed there, but those are the things that I thought were the most interesting. The first competition is actually going to start up in December, and
that's like a month away from that or the release. So.
Just weeks away. So you gotta get your Pokemon, level them up, start the breeding and the item and min-maxing, and then join that online competition. That's going to be fantastic to see. It's going to be in a stadium, right?
That's crazy.
It's going to be pretty wild. It's like they're taking the element of Pokemon Stadium, incorporating it into the online play that's going to be baked into the system. So you can kind of imagine like this really nice HD Pokemon Stadium online competition, official too, that you can just join while playing your game with the Pokemon that you collect. That's going to be awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah. So then we got a couple more news bits here. Elder Scrolls Blades requires an online connection. This is a mobile port soon to come. I thought it was coming out this year. I thought it'd be out already.
Yeah. Did they announce Elder Scrolls Blades this E3 or was it last E3?
I thought it was announced in a direct.
It was.
I think it might have been last year.
E3.
E3. It was not this year's E3.
And they might have mentioned it in a direct as well, yeah. But it was announced last year's E3, and no one's really heard of it. And we kind of assumed that it was gonna come out to the Switch, and I think they even said it was gonna come out to the Switch. But it's been taking a long time,
right,
for it to just release in general. It's probably out in some sort of beta form on mobile devices.
No, you can actually play. I was playing it on mobile. Yeah, well, so it is available on mobile. Yeah. I've been playing it. I don't see how this is going to translate over to the Switch. To be honest with you, it's a very simplified game.
It takes place in a Skyrim world.
Yeah, cool. I mean, yeah,
it's not like Skyrim's on the Switch. Oh,
wait, it is on the Switch. One of the first games, actually. Yeah. So yeah, I guess it's going to require an online always connection, and that's the mobile roots coming out there.
Yeah, and it's also a free to play game, so
I'm sure there are people that could take advantage of it not being online or whatever. So.
But don't knock a free to play Elder Scrolls game because that franchise is pretty huge.
No, and actually, I'm planning on doing a video with all the free-to-play RPGs available on the Switch. There are actually more than you would think. None of them are...
No, there's definitely more than any of us can think because there's a whole lot of garbage on the Switch.
Well, I'm talking specifically RPGs. There's probably about
600.
No, not RPGs.
I'm telling you, man, there's just garbage out there.
There are garbage, but there are actually some decent ones out there. You'd be surprised.
Oh, definitely some decent ones. Yeah.
Then Tencent is hiring.
Yeah, this is a little bit of dated news. Once again, most of these articles you can find and links to their original articles on My Nintendo News. But yeah, Tencent is a massive, massive company. They already have a few games out on Switch, and they are hiring more developers to port more of their games over to the Switch. And that's just fantastic stuff because they have, well, a little game called League of Legends.
Never heard of it.
They have Arena of Valor, which is on the Switch. I've played it.
Oh, it's one of those awesome free-to-play garbage games.
No, it's actually really good.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And it is a free-to-play game. And it's basically the League of Legends experience.
Okay.
But done well for console.
Mm-hmm.
And League of Legends free-to-play. That game's free-to-play. And it's very similar, League of Legends. Even I don't know if they copied some of the characters or not, but either way, there's that. So to know that there are even more titles that are going to make their way over to the Switch, and Tencent has acquired a couple of recent big companies. So don't think that this isn't interesting news because Tencent. If you want, I could look up some of the more recent companies that they acquired because those companies have some really interesting games to go along with them. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it could potentially be more RPGs. Off the top of your head, you don't remember because I'd really like to know that. But I'm going to move on from this, and when you find that out, just let me know, because we're going to go into listener questions. We're kind of a little light on time here. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to hear from you. Remember, we are all about community here at Switchrpg Podcast. So, if you want to be part of the show, you can email your feedback and questions at podcast@switchrpg.com, or you can jump into our Discord server. You can message me on Twitter @TheNerdBasement. There's all different ways to contact us. Now, I'm just going to hit one of these questions. We got a few of them. But Two While on Discord says, what do you think of the current state of Nintendo Online with the NES/SNES games? And do you prefer this or Virtual Console?
So I kind of posted a quick little thing on the...
this was on Discord, by the way.
This was on Discord. And I kind of said that, what we want is to have to buy a digital, an older game digitally, buy it once, and have that purchase stick with us for the remainder of our Nintendo network account.
So a game
across multiple consoles.
All right. So a game you bought originally on the DS, you want that to carry over to the Switch, essentially following the line.
Well, at some point. And I think it's too late now, but ideally it would be for the Wii or the DS, or I think in the 3DS and Wii U, that's when they really did some bigger changes to it. Mm-hmm. And that's when I thought a lot of those purchases would carry over because they had a Virtual Console in the Wii U. But it didn't, and I think I know why they didn't.
I mean, they really have no obligation to do that. Okay,
right.
I mean, you purchased it on the DS; it's available on the DS. You can play it to your heart's content.
Yep.
They made a 3DS. I mean, yeah, I'd love to play it on the 3DS, but it's a totally different console. And then you jump over to your consoles. You play a game on, you download a game on the Wii. That should not carry over to the Switch. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love for that to happen.
It's just annoying that you have to buy the same game over and over again. And the game isn't changing. Well, the console, the device that you're playing that game on is changing.
Right. It's a totally say you got a different game, a different console. I mean, you bought a game on the Wii and you buy a PlayStation. That game is not going to change over. I mean, just because it's Nintendo doesn't mean it's gonna. They owe you that.
Well, right, and I agree with that, but.
I don't know if that analogy made sense, but
if you look at what they did for the transition between the Wii and the Wii U, which I thought was great, was you could take your Virtual Console games and spend a fraction of the purchase price for these
to get that game back
to transfer it onto the Wii U, so you can essentially upgrade the number of platforms that you could play it on.
Okay,
which was great, and it was. A fraction of $1 to sort of transition these games that you've purchased already. And that was a really nice way, and it would have been nice for them to do it again, but that's fine. Now with the Switch, what they are doing, I think what they are doing right now is sort of walking a nice line between the ultimate of what we all would want to do, but we kind of know that they're not going to do, which is what I said before, and the inevitability of purchasing the same game over and over again on each new platform. We definitely don't want that. That's not a good thing, because Nintendo knows that's not a good thing, because when they release these games, no one's going to repurchase them again for the 10th time, the 20th time. Eventually, that well will dry up.
But so you still own the game. You just own it on whatever platform you bought it on.
But once again, like that well will dry up. The amount of times that people are willing to rebuy the same game. And I think it's even better to do it the way that they're doing right now from Nintendo's perspective.
Right.
And that is by purchasing the game, or not the game, but purchasing the Nintendo Network
the online service
account.
Yep.
And paying that monthly fee, Nintendo gets, they're
getting
collect.
They're getting their money.
They're getting their money monthly, and the hope is that it's a Netflix like subscription service, and that over time you can carry over the many years. This will hopefully stay in service across multiple platforms, where, yes, you will always have access to these tried and true games, and you'll have access to them across multiple platforms. The only problem is you have to pay this fee every single year.
Sure.
That's going to recur, but you get the transfer.
Right. I mean, they did both of them very differently. With Nintendo, they gave little bite-sized chunks until the library grew to what it is now. For Super Nintendo, they said, all right, here's whatever, how many, say 30 games or whatever it is, and this is all we're getting. We're not doing any more. That limits you. I mean, there are games for the Super Nintendo that I want, and I can't get it.
A lot of games.
Yeah. And that comes down to licensing. That's again added cost, which is probably why you have to buy it every iteration, every console,
except for the Switch.
The license is probably taken care of with the Nintendo Online purchase.
I think it's kind of what you're seeing with Disney and Netflix and Hulu, etc. Is that all these content providers, these intellectual property holders, are now seeing that there's a lot of money to be made off of their older IPs. And they're reserving them or charging a higher premium to those that do want to sort of license it out, to resell it on whatever store, or to package it with some sort of subscription service.
Right. And you'll notice, again, with those streaming services you're talking about, a lot of them, what they're doing now is they're producing more of their first-party content. They're doing a lot more of that. So they're not having to pay licensing to other movie makers or whatever, so they're making their own content to kind of alleviate that. And that's what you're going to see with the Nintendo Online. You're going to see a lot more first party games rather than third party games, things of that nature.
But it's right now, I think this is the best that satisfies both the older, nostalgic fan, and also is best for Nintendo, who wants to continue to make money off of their older purchases, but also not nickel and dime people over and over again for purchasing the same thing. Because when you think about it, mindset wise, is you're not buying the same thing over and over again. You're buying a subscription that you need to keep up if you want to have access to this content. I never like subscription services, so I'm mainly doing it for the sake of having online access.
Which is Switch. For what? I mean, maybe Smash. With Smash, I was going to say. And for me, the online aspect of Nintendo Online is useless, other than having access to those Super Nintendo or those Nintendo games. Because right now, there's nothing that I play that's multiplayer online.
Yeah, and I got just the first year, and I don't know if I'm going to renew that. And the access that they've provided for the NES stuff, and I don't know, I maybe dumped 2 hours tops on those NES games.
Yeah, I didn't play any of the NES games.
And the Super Nintendo games, I dumped a bit more time, but once again, they need to add a whole lot more for
there's just not enough there.
There's only so many times I can play and beat, Link to the Past, Super Metroid, and Super Mario World, and all those.
So would you prefer something like this, versus a kind of a la carte. All right, I want this game. I want this game. I want this game, and you choose your own game.
I would rather have it a la carte if the games that I actually wanted to grab a la carte were there
and carried over.
But if they were brought over to the subscription service, I would rather have the subscription service.
Just the games aren't there for you. All right, cool.
It's really just one game.
What game is that?
It's Ogre Battle.
Oh, geez. Okay. So Tencent, going back to Tencent.
All right, I got a list of games.
What do they own here?
They got Chess Rush. Whatever. But they got PUBG. All right, that's a big one. Arena of Valor, which we talked about. For whatever reason, they're now publishing Contra games. They got a game, Contra Return. That's a Konami property, yet Tencent is now publishing that. I mean, come on, Konami. What a sad.
Well, the latest Contra for the Switch was not so good.
Yeah. Well, Konami is just, yeah. They got another game called Honor of Kings.
Don't go by ArcAge. ArcAge is an MMO. I would love for that.
Oh. I was going to go buy it, but yeah, ArcAge. I see a lot of emails about that. I mean, at this point, my brain is turned off on MMOs.
Yeah,
I've played too many MMOs. They all play the same at this point.
I agree with some of that.
Let's see. Alliance of Valiant Arms. Already said League of Legends. Crossfire. That's actually kind of up there on Twitch right now. Ring of Elysium. I think that's another like battle royale style game.
Okay.
It's still, I think, in the beta side of things, still being worked on, but that's also something interesting. There's some older games, for example, Infinity Blade, and that company in particular, was it? They do the big game.
Well, Infinity Blade it's a mobile game.
Well, it is a mobile game.
And there's Infinity Blade 2, which is actually pretty good.
It is really good. Yeah. I played and beat that to the nth degree.
That's actually going to lead.
Maybe the third one too, I think.
I don't know about the third one, but it's going to lead to our kind of off-topic thing.
Yeah.
But let's just move on here. We got some upcoming RPGs. We have As Divine Chimera. It's a Kemco game. So if you're into those Kemco games for whatever reason, that one's coming out November 7th. Again, another November 7th. Animus Harbinger. Animus is kind of like a Dark Souls boss run type of game. Really interesting game there. Romancing Saga 3. A lot of nostalgia there. You want to talk about nostalgia? That was a game that was never before released in the West, now coming over. We have Yaga on... Romancing Saga is November 11th. Yaga, November 12th. Yep. That is kind of a roguelite. I don't even know the difference between the two. But that is an action RPG coming out on November 12th. Then we have Labyrinth of the Witch, which is another roguelite dungeon crawler, which is really interesting. I like the look of Labyrinth of the Witch. Take a look at that one on November 14th. Again, you were talking about Infinity Blade. I kind of have a side quest, off-topic thing here. Are there any mobile games or mobile RPGs that you actually enjoy?
Yeah.
Well,
it's not quite an RPG.
Oh, okay.
But it definitely has. I mean, you do level up. It's more of a, I don't know, like a swipe the screen fighter.
Yep.
But that's an older game. But it is actually kind of good. Also, shout out to Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah.
That's actually the only one I really kind of enjoy. I mean, I've played so many. Most of the time they're filled with ads and microtransactions. It really kind of is. I just want to buy a game outright and not have to worry about any of those things.
I generally don't play mobile games anymore because of how money hungry and the free to play system and how the gameplay is designed to slow things down to a grind. They ramp up at first dramatically on purpose, and this is all purely on purpose. And that formula has been exposed to me so much to the degree that I now no longer just pay attention to mobile games. That's why I don't play them anymore.
I mean, I think there's an avenue. There is a market for them. Yeah. I just wish they, like I had said, just let me pay $12, $10, whatever. Just let me buy the game outright and then be done with me and just let me enjoy a game without interrupting me every whatever or trying to grab loot box money out of me, all that stuff. But
we're going to cover that other question?
You seem to be wanting to cover. All right, we're going to go over.
I'm just wondering.
Okay, no, we can't.
I did a little bit of homework.
Oh, you did homework. All right, so we're going to do this. We do have another listener question. Hedge Knight Mike on the Discord server. What Japanese exclusive RPG would you like to have localized? I'm sorry. I can't see. What Japanese exclusive RPG would you like localized? Does not have to be for the Switch. Will take a remaster / port. I didn't edit this, so I'm going off of what he said.
So a game that never made it to the States. More in line with an RPG, but I would also say it doesn't have to be an RPG. But if we just lean towards RPG, the answer to this is like super simple.
It's easy.
It's Mother 3.
Okay, right, that's what I mean. It's easy. I think everyone will say Mother 3.
Mother 3.
And I actually think, and I put it in our notes here, we're actually getting the ones that I would have originally wanted, which is Trials of Mana or Seiken Densetsu 3.
I am definitely looking forward to Trials of Mana, the remake, the 3D remake. That looks really, really good. It's already in the collection.
It is, but not at the remake.
Not the remake. Yeah, not the original remake. 2D Super Nintendo. Yep.
But if you and then also Romancing Saga, which I did mention, Romancing Saga 3 is coming over soon. That game looks very different, and it looks very vibrant.
Yeah, and so Mother 3, the obvious pick.
Right.
And there's these other games that are now coming to the Switch, and I just want to point out some of the other rarities, and I'm really going to dig into the rare part of things. I'm going to throw some stuff out. There's also from an article on denofgeek.com.
Den of Geek.
Den of Geek. There we go. I read that way wrong. But they have an article, and some of these games I'm just going to point out. Dragon Quest X, which is an MMO, never made it to the States.
I would accept that.
Because it's an MMO, but yeah, I would want to see that here. Now, I'm going to skip over that one because I played the first one, and it is phenomenal. There's some other rare games, but another one I wanted to point out that was actually pretty interesting, and I did play it, and it never made it here to the States. It came out in Europe. Where is that game? Here it is. Terra Nigma. That game, I played it on an emulator because it never came out in the States. Played it on an emulator because I didn't know what this game was, and it had a weird name, right? Terra Nigma. It was a really, really good action RPG. Kind of like Secret of Mana, a little bit more towards Zelda, but also like still had level up mechanics and stuff like that. So it was like this nice fine in between, and the combat to it was really good, and they should bring that back.
Visually, it looks like Earthbound, to me anyway.
Terra Nigma?
Terra Nigma. I'm sorry, you're talking this one here.
That is Earthbound.
Okay.
That is Mother 3.
Okay.
Terra Nigma.
That's why you totally confused me. All right. Yeah. So they've... Okay. Terra Nigma.
Yes. So this game, very rare. This is digging way back. So when I looked up this article, I was looking like, oh yeah, doing a little bit of research on this. I saw Terra Nigma, and I'm like, and I started to pull up a video because it looks kind of familiar, and I remembered playing that game, many years ago, once again on an emulator, and it was really good. And yeah, it never got brought to the States. So this is one of those like rare RPGs that absolutely should be brought over. Now
that I'm looking at the correct image, the main protagonist looks like the main protagonist in Secret of Mana.
Yeah, okay. It does. And the gameplay, it
plays like Secret of Mana.
But more faster paced, action oriented gameplay. Now, the game that I actually want here in the States and has never left Japan is...
Can you put it on the correct image so I don't make a buffoon of myself? Thank you.
I will. Here we go. So it is called Dragon Force. Not one. One did come out here in the States. I played that game so much. It was fantastic. Probably the only reason to own a Sega Saturn. It's a Saturn game. Is Dragon Force 2. I didn't even realize that there was a sequel until I looked up this article, and I was scrolling down, I saw Dragon Force 2. I'm like, wait a minute, they made a 2?
Well, it was probably due to come out, and then the Saturn just kind of...
That's pretty much it. Yeah, you nailed it. And Dragon Force, the first one, was phenomenal. It was the reason to own a Saturn.
Okay.
The game itself was just that good. Mm-hmm. And they made a sequel, and it never left Japan because the Saturn was a huge flop.
Now, is that a fighting game, or what am I looking at here?
It is a strategy tactics war game that when you go into combat, the battlefield takes place on like this level terrain. It almost has like a fighting game perspective, and you have like the leader of an army fighting another leader of an army, and you can duel each other, and you can like use magical attacks against one another, and you also have like troops that are also battling each other, and these troops could measure up to like 100. So you'll have like 100 versus 100 big giant warfare battle. And there's like dragons and mages and,
I'm excited
cavalry
for this.
and other mystical things.
Who do we need to contact? Sega?
It would be Sega. So it's of the Force kind of franchise.
Okay.
So it has Dragon Force, right? They're Shining Force.
All right.
So it's sort of akin to that. And any of the Force games are owned by Sega, but they don't treat those games very well. Especially Dragon Force. It's kind of like lost into the nether. So I wouldn't want to see the Sega Saturn game ported, obviously, because it's going to play like garbage now. But what I would love is for them to just take, if not the original, the second one, or both, package it together and just remaster it. Come out with
like Grandia 1 and 2.
Well, like what they did with Secret of Mana.
Okay,
right?
Yeah,
just a nice collection, and if possible, remaster or remake that bundle. Both games, because the first one's phenomenal. I never played the second one, but I can imagine that the second one is going to be as good as the first one or better.
Okay. I'll contact my folks at Sega.
Yes,
and we can make this happen.
Do you have any games other than Earthbound or Mother 3?
Mother 3. I mentioned Romancing Saga 3 Secret of Mana 3, not 3, but Seiken Densetsu Trials of Mana. 3. Yeah. But they're already coming, so I don't need anything else.
Except for Mother 3, which we all need.
It's not happening. Everyone's all excited about this, getting their hopes up for nothing.
Yeah. There are some RPGs that could, on older consoles like the Game Boy Advance, the DS, rare, that could be brought over. Now, I will say this. My original answer to this question was Tales of Phantasia.
Okay.
Which never released. It was a late Super Nintendo game, never released in the States, but then they sort of dug it up and brought it over via the Game Boy Advance, or it might have been DS. It was either the DS or a Game Boy Advance, which I have, and it's fantastic. It's the very first Tales of game, and the fact that if you ever played through that game and realized that game was doing things on the Super Nintendo that was like voice acting on a Super Nintendo game, that is that is insane.
I don't remember there. I mean, there was some not voice acting. I mean, there were some games like the opening to Super Metroid. Yeah, I mean, but is that really voice acting?
No, that is voice acting.
Is it? Okay.
The last Metroid is in captivity.
I'll have to.
The galaxy is at peace.
I don't remember. Okay, I don't remember. I'll have to. We'll look that up.
Yep.
But. Yeah, so some older Game Boy Advance.
There's definitely Tales of Phantasia specifically, and if you haven't played it, dig it up, find a Game Boy Advance, or maybe it's on an eShop somewhere. Tales of Phantasia is actually a really good. It's the beginning of the franchise. Mm-hmm. It's really good, and the earlier part of the Tales series, Tales of Phantasia and Tales of Destiny, those are actually a way more mature depiction of Tales games, from the more Symphonia to Vesperia, Abyss, etc. The more anime-ish, which kind of took a little bit more of a lighthearted approach. But those earlier iterations of the Tales of franchise, pretty mature. The other game would be Sword of Mana.
Oh,
Yeah, there was a of Mana.
I have Sword of Mana. I didn't realize that was a
Game Boy Advance, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a European or Eastern release.
Yeah, and also Children of Mana.
Yep, I have that too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm learning new things. I have these games.
Yeah. It's like you don't remember how awesome the Game Boy Advance and the DS were for RPGs in general until you look up a list.
Right.
Which I did earlier today, and I remembered I have that game, and yes, it was great.
I'll have to look and see. I thought they were released in the West.
But... No, they did.
Okay.
Yeah,
these
games did, yes.
All right, cool. All right. And that's going to wrap up this episode of the Switch RPG podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to everyone who sent in their questions and comments. Keep them coming. Remember, you can listen to the show each and every week at switchrpg.com, or you can subscribe on your favorite podcast app. If you listen on that, please give us a rating and review. We want to climb up those charts on those platforms, so your support would be amazing. And finally, remember, you can head over to switchrpg.com for all your RPG needs for the Nintendo Switch. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.